Warsaw, 1940. The city, once vibrant and full of life, now lay in ruins. The city was a shadow of its former self, a haunting reminder of the devastation of war. The Nazi jackboot had fallen heavily, crushing the spirit of the people. Fear hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as the oppressive regime tightened its grip. Yet even in this darkness, embers of resistance glowed, a testament to the unyielding human spirit. I felt the heat of those embers, a burning desire to fight back. I knew the stories filtering out of Auschwitz, tales of horror that defied belief. They spoke of unimaginable horrors, atrocities that seemed too monstrous to be true. A concentration camp, they called it, a place of unspeakable suffering. But I refused to believe the whispers. Needing to see the truth with my own eyes, I needed to know the truth, to uncover the reality behind the rumors. Pilecki volunteered to be captured by the Nazis, a daring move driven by a sense of duty. His mission, infiltrate Auschwitz and report on the atrocities within, a task fraught with danger. On September 19, 1940, I stepped into a Nazi roundup, my heart pounding with fear and resolve, willingly giving myself to the enemy, knowing the risks. I knew that the name Tomasz Serafiński, the one I would adopt in Auschwitz, might be the last one I ever used, a final act of defiance. His journey into the heart of darkness began, a mission that would test the limits of human endurance and courage. The cattle car rattled and shook, its metal frame groaning under the weight of its human cargo. It was crammed full of terrified souls, all bound for the unknown, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. Pilecki, disguised as a laborer, watched and listened intently, absorbing every detail. Every jolt of the train, every sob in the darkness solidified his resolve. They arrived at night, the air thick with tension. The air hung heavy with a strange, acrid smell, a foreboding hint of the horrors that lay ahead. Floodlights pierced the darkness, illuminating a barbed wire fence that stretched as far as the eye could see, a grim reminder of their captivity. Above the gate, a chilling inscription, Arbeit macht frei. Work sets you free, a cruel irony for those who pass beneath it. We were herded like cattle, stripped of our dignity and humanity. Shouts, barked orders, and the snarling of dogs filled the air, creating an atmosphere of terror and chaos. From that moment, he was no longer Witold Pilecki, the man with a mission. He was 4859, a number in a sea of numbers, another nameless, faceless prisoner in the Nazi machine, lost in the abyss of Auschwitz. Auschwitz was worse than Pilecki could have ever imagined. Starvation was rampant, disease spread like wildfire. The stench of death clung to everything. Every day he witnessed unimaginable cruelty. Beatings, torture, and executions were commonplace. I refused to be broken. I clung to my humanity. I offered comfort to fellow prisoners, sharing my meager rations and whispering words of hope. He began to meticulously document everything. He noted the camp's layout, the guards' routines, the systematic extermination of Jews and other undesirables. His reports, painstakingly written on scraps of paper, were smuggled out by courageous members of the resistance he formed within the camp itself. Each message sent was a victory, a crack in the facade of Nazi invincibility. Information is a weapon. Pilecki knew that exposing the truth about Auschwitz to the world was crucial. Within the brutal camp, he organized a resistance network. The Związek Organizacji Wojskowych, the Union of Military Organizations, was born in the shadow of the crematoria. The resistance fighters, fueled by Pilecki's leadership, risked their lives to gather information. We documented the horrors, the gas chambers, the medical experiments, the sheer scale of the genocide. They smuggled reports, written on scraps of paper and cigarette packs, to the Polish underground. These reports were then relayed to the Polish government in exile and eventually reached the Allies. After nearly 3 years, I knew I had to escape. The walls of the camp were closing in and every day was a fight for survival. I couldn't let my story end there. I had to personally deliver my message to the world. The truth about the atrocities needed to be known, and I was determined to be the one to tell it. In April 1943, he made a daring escape from the bakery where he worked. It was a meticulously planned operation, executed with precision and bravery. His journey back to freedom was fraught with danger. Every step was a gamble, every shadow a potential threat. But he pressed on, driven by an unyielding will to survive. He rejoined the Polish resistance, fighting valiantly against the Nazi occupation. His courage inspired many, and his leadership was instrumental in several key operations. After the war, a new tyranny gripped Poland, the Soviet regime. The freedom they had fought so hard for was once again under threat, this time from the east. He was arrested in 1947, accused of espionage by the very people he had fought to liberate. The irony was bitter, and the betrayal cut deep. The Soviets, threatened by his wartime reports and his unwavering patriotism, subjected him to a sham trial. It was a mockery of justice designed to silence him forever. He was tortured, broken, and ultimately executed in 1948. His final days were a testament to his unbreakable spirit, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. His body was dumped in an unmarked grave, his story silenced. For decades, his sacrifice was forgotten, buried under the weight of history. In the 1990s, as the Iron Curtain finally fell, Pilecki's story began to emerge from the shadows. The world started to recognize the true extent of his heroism. Witold Pilecki, the man who volunteered to go to hell, was finally recognized for the hero he truly was. His legacy lives on, a beacon of courage and sacrifice for future generations.